Zen. Tonight's Dharma talk is given by Myung-Jin and San.
Here's something to ponder. What would a series of notes without rests between them sound like? What would the written word look like if there were no spaces between them? Would there be any use for the concept of bright if we didn't have dark? What's the inhale without the exhale? Each of them relies on their counterpart, not in opposition to their counterpart. They aren't opposites. They're inextricably part of each other. Nagarjuna, or Nagarjuna if you prefer, his teachings of the middle way challenge the notion that we typically have of cause and effect as two independent things. A quote from him is, "Neither from itself, nor from another, nor from both, nor without cause, does anything whatever, anywhere, arise." So the middle path between light and dark isn't gray. It's light and dark. It's the inclusion of both, not the sort of moderation of both. The middle path isn't between them. The middle path encompasses both of them. It's a dialectic, not dualistic. It's all and, not or. The reason for this is because light and dark and note and rest and blank space and letters are all conceptual. They're all characterized by emptiness. We, in a lot of times, take cause and effect, on the one hand, to be very obvious, and on the other hand, miss the point altogether. You might think that if you drink a gallon of vodka, odds are you're going to wake up with a hangover. Fair enough. The cause and the effect are intertwined. It's not just cause, effect. Vodka and car crash have no independent selfness to them. There's no thingness to them. They're intertwined, they're interdependent. That particular car crash would not have happened without that particular gallon of vodka. Otherwise, it's entirely different. Sort of a Hawaiian approach to it, that when one thing in the universe changes, everything else changes. And with Nagarjuna, he's not saying that there's any sort of predestination involved in any of these things. Neither from itself nor from another, not from both nor without cause, does anything anywhere ever arise. It's the 21st century here in America. And there seems to be a fair amount of divisiveness. It seems to be going on worldwide, in fact. If we didn't have one point of view, we wouldn't need to have the other point of view, or at least name it something. Just like if it's always dark, you don't really need a name for dark, because it's just how things are, right? So this is that same sort of thing. It's not an or, it's an and. There are these, there are those. They're interdependent with each other. They're intertwined with each other. They create the whole. They create the whole. There is a whole, empty as it may be, that is entirely dependent upon these other empty elements. I'm sure at some point or another, Robert either has or will give a talk on the 12 nidanas, the links of dependent origination. And if he hasn't, he has his assignment for next time. But I think he has.
Sure. I will duly review that potential.
And you can also pull out the soprano sax and give us an idea of what, all those notes without any rests in between them would actually sound like.
That's what I thought of when you said that. I said, that reminds me of my playing.
I had you in mind when I came up with the idea. So in our situation here, how does the Bodhisattva fit into all of it? How do we, as Zen practitioners, go about negotiating all of this seeming contradiction and these things crashing into each other that we really don't like? We don't like the crashing. We don't like the point of view that isn't the same as ours. How do we negotiate this? We see things like the existence of greed. Now, the Bodhisattva wouldn't be greedy when running a business, hoarding all the profits and leaving some others penniless. The middle path, as per Nagarjuna, includes both ends of that. Doesn't justify them, just says that they're part of that entirety. As bodhisattvas, we can do something that's going to improve the lot of all, right? That can be part of our saving all sentient beings. If you're familiar with the realm of the Deva, D-E-V-A, that's basically one of the realms that you can be reborn into, and The deva, to my mind, is the rich guy who doesn't realize his wealth. He just takes it for granted, and he doesn't even notice that there are others that don't like that. He's totally clueless, totally tone deaf, just oblivious. On the other end of things, you've got the hungry ghost, which is another realm of potential rebirth. And the hungry ghost is characterized by craving and never being able to be satisfied, there never being enough. And sometimes the desperation of the hungry ghost can result in some, obviously desperate moves. Sometimes their desperation might lead to a revolution. And the deva, of course, wouldn't realize that revolutions aren't put down by creating more revolutionaries. How do we as bodhisattvas intersect with these different things? When this becomes, that becomes. Hungry ghost, deva, revolutionary, rich guy. All are interdependent with each other. You might think of them as points of comparison, but it's, like I said, more of a dialectic. It's an and rather than an or. Here's hoping that the number of inhales and exhales are even. Here's hoping that what we think of as a gray area, we realize is actually inclusive of both black and white. Here's hoping that when we see socioeconomic disparities, we realize that the one is only in reference to the other. But as bodhisattvas, even though we see that, we recognize that, and accept that that's how things are, we don't necessarily have to settle for them being that way. There's no predestination. We're not tied to a cause and an effect. Neither from itself, nor from another, nor from both, nor without cause does anything, whatever, anywhere arise.